Lots of you are joining us. Let's do the usual and see if we can get some comments up, and ask that if you are joining us that you please leave me a little note to let me know. Oh my goodness, lots of you today. Good afternoon, David. I think I've missed a few. My goodness. You ready? All ready, David? I'm glad you got coffee in hand. I'll have one when you're ready. And you're sitting in the car. Why are you sitting in the car? Sue, good afternoon. Another Sue. So looking forward to this demo. Okay, so we did say that we were going to try and do a bit more with some flowers today, and I did say about using my leftover backgrounds. I'm not doing that today because I just haven't had time to go and find them. As some of you may or may not know, we're in the process of moving our units, and everything kind of got packed away. And I've managed to kind of get a few bits together. We are doing flowers, just not with those background bits. But we might try and do a little bit of something as we're going along. Can't wait to see what Amanda has in store for us today. You'll have to wait and see. Well, I hope you like it. You just have to let me know, won't you? Hi, Jules. Hi, Teresa. Right. Hi, Mum. So let's get started. As I say, we're in a bit of a whirlwind because I had to rush out. I was out this morning. If I've got suitcases under my eyes, we were up at 5. I don't do 5 o'clock unless I have to. Hi Sarah, glad to see you blocked us out. Lunch break at school. Okay, Anne. Oh my goodness. I better make sure I cram it in the lunch break then. Right, so let's flip over here. We'll get rid of that one. And here we go. Hi Lynn. So today, it looks like there's loads going on, but there's not really. It's actually quite a simple card today, which is very unlike me. Hey. So what we're using. We are going to be using faded jeans and twisted citron distress oxides. You can use whatever colour you want for this. There's no right or wrong here. Good afternoon, Linda. We're using the Versamark ink. We are using our sticky glue, which again is still only in the large ones. I'm waiting for those small ones to get here, hopefully in the next couple of days. Fingers crossed. We're using blending brushes. I'm probably going to use the big one, but we do have the 2 sizes, and both. This one comes with this case. This one comes with a little lid to protect the brushes. We are using white embossing powder. We are using vellum and cardstock, either in 250 or 300 GSM. Hello, Mary from Alberto, Canada. How lovely. What's the weather like there? It's blooming freezing here today. I've been outside all morning for work. And yeah, it was cold. So we've got anti-static bag as well. Hopefully I'll remember to use it today. We are also going to be using a scoring board. This is slightly different to the one I use. Well, I say slightly different. It just doesn't have the little flap at the top that you'll see when I get mine out. Hi, Jill. But it's a fabulous one because this one has, I don't know if you can see here. Let's see if we can home in on it. We have, mine one's in inches. We can get this in centimetres if you prefer, but that's a special order in for you. It does 1/8 of an inch, which is fabulous because a lot of scoreboards don't. And it also has on there the tool which is tucked underneath it for your envelope making, and obviously your scoring tool as well. So that's a really clever little scoring board. It's not that little, but it is still really good. And then the flowers we're going to be using are one of our older ones. It's called Fleur, and I think this one gets forgotten about a little bit, really. It kind of, but I have been playing with this for a little while now, coming up with a few different ideas, and I really have enjoyed using this one. And then we've got sentiments, obviously, because it's a card. We need to pop a sentiment on there. I'm probably going to use the new sentiments, but I wanted to remind you that we do still have lots of other different sentiments. This one's it's called Birthday Sentiments, and it says, happy birthday to you. A birthday wish is sent your way, hoping you have a wonderful day. Happy birthday, may today be the start of a wonderful year. May your birthday be as special as you, wishing you the best on your special day. So there's quite nice sentiments on there as well. And obviously you then get a couple of little bits, so you get a little mini flourish and a couple of butterflies, and who doesn't need a lot of butterflies sometimes. So that is everything we are using today. Now I don't know where I'm going to put it all, but that's what we use. I need to tuck that out of the way so I can get my stuff out to actually make this card. bear with me. There's lots of it. I've got to tuck it all under here. And then hope I don't need something that I've just piled that all on top of. I don't think I do. So we should be good. Right, so let's get started. So cardstock, it's really, really minimal today. You need an A5 card. Now I've actually got a pack that are A5 landscape. So my A5, my card's going to be kind of in a tent form for me, but you don't have to do that. And then we are going to have a piece of white cardstock, which is 5.5 by 8. And then another one which is 5.25 by 7.75. So it's just 1/4 of an inch down in size. -4, Mary. My goodness. I'm not going to complain about being cold here then. So I have been asked this week how I get my minimal layers, because quite often if I'm using black, you only see the tiniest little amount around the edge. It's not any dyes. The lady that asked, I think it was, I can't even think who it was now. I don't use dyes. I just tend to cut the shape, sort of squares, circles, whatever, and just do. I quite often only go up 1/8 of an inch. Sometimes I'll go up 1/2 inch, which I have on this one, but just because I'm just going to bring in a little bit of colour, very, very little bit of colour on this. It's going to be a predominantly white card, which might make it a little difficult to show you, which is why I'm bringing in a little bit of colour. So I'm just going to pop these off to one side and keep the smaller one. Hello from North Carolina, but I don't know what your name is. I've got some exciting news. We've been accepted as a YouTube partner. So we're in the YouTube Partners program now. Ooh, see, look, we're all getting posh now. Don't know what it means, but I've been accepted. So we're going to grab the scoreboard. So this is what I mean. My scoreboard is a really, really, and I say really, really old. It's like really old. One of the first things I bought when I started paper crafting, which was 20 plus years ago. So this is a Martha Stewart one, but the ones and you can't get Martha Stewart here in the UK anymore. I'm not sure if you can over in the States or Canada anymore either. But the one that we have does what this does. So it's got the 1/8 of an inch in, which make a huge difference, particularly when we're doing this. Right. I would, in my head, I'm positioning my flowers when we get to them about here. I don't want my lines that I'm going to be putting on here to go necessarily straight down the middle. So I'm going to go off. So half of this would be 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 would be right down the centre. I'm going to go off to 2. No, I'm not. I'm going to go to 1.5, and I'm just going to drag that straight down every 1/8 of an inch. I will bring it up to the camera so that you can see what I've done, but it is literally. Hi Diana, sorry. So I've done it. So we've got about, it's 1 inch wide's worth of lines. So I'm going to bring that up just so that you can see that up a bit closer. See, can you catch that? Please tell me how that's looking, because I'm getting the bounce back on the screen, so hopefully you are catching those white lines. But I'm actually going to flip it over and use this side, because I quite like it being up and raised rather than tucked in and under. Right, so that's the hardest bit of this whole card done. So pop that to one side. We're then going to make our vellum flowers. So as I said, we are using the Fleur stamp today. I have got it here. I'm not used to having chairs, you know, and I've got this chair. So you could see it slightly, Jill. I will try and get that up a bit closer. Right, so when I'm doing this one, I've chosen to use the medium and small set of stamps, but you can use whichever ones you want to use. So If you want to go with the big one, go with the big one. I've got all my bits and pieces tucked up out of the way so that they weren't in shot in the camera shot when I showed you what it was all about. So, fleur. Versamark ink, lots and lots of little light taps, and then we're going to press this out. Now, because we're stamping onto vellum, this is just an offcut of vellum I had. It's exactly the same vellum that we sell. So we are going, because I'm stamping onto vellum, the ink doesn't soak into the paper quite the same as it does if we're stamping onto cardstock. So you can get, as you can see, 3 images. Sometimes you can get 4, it depends how brave you want to be, out of one inking up of your stamp. Another little trick for you is when you are inking your stamps, I tell you to use lots of little light taps. Make sure you pop, or I always say, find it easier, so you don't have to do it, my way of doing it. Pop your stamp down on your block down on your mat and ink it that way, rather than try and hold it in your hand and ink it that way, because number 1, you're going to get all your fingers, and number 2, you don't get an even coverage all over your stamp. So lots and lots of little light taps. I'm just going to use that extra bit of ink that I popped on there and put it down there. Also, the beauty of using vellum is you don't have to rush. So I'm just doing that to get rid of the sticky ink off there. And then I'm going to go in with the smaller one. As I say, you don't have to rush because the ink will stay quite wet on there for quite some time. So you can go in with your smaller ones as well. You don't need anywhere near as many as this, but I'm just cheating and going ahead of myself. I've got 3. I don't think I'd get a 4th out of that one. 4. I'm also breaking all my rules, and I'm going to be using just 2 layers of flowers. I always say they look better in odd numbers, but I am actually only going to use 2 on this one. But it still looks really, really effective. So obviously I'm doing this just with the flowers, but you would also need to do some leaves to go with this in exactly the same way. So I must have got you all completely mesmerised already. So we'll just pop the ink on there. And none of you reminded me I was supposed to use my anti-static bag. I would recommend using your anti-static bag with this because you haven't got multiple layers of flowers, you've got 2. So the neater you can get them, the better. But it's no deal breaker if they're not perfect. Hi Janice. So just pop that powder back in the pot. Now, as most of you know, I like to ink from underneath, except when I'm using vellum. When I'm using vellum, I do it on top, particularly when I'm doing flowers, because you don't want to overcook the embossing powder, and that can be done when you do it from underneath. So couple of things you need to know about using vellum. We've got a little bit of powder there that has been missed off this stamp. I knew somebody was going to say that about those cases. Marianne from, I can't think where she's from, somewhere in Essex, sent those to my mum because that's how she's been storing them. They're just old, I think they're like CD cases, but they don't have that bit inside to hold CDs. Do you know how some of them have that little circle inside? Those ones don't. I have no idea what they're actually called. Oh, you just knew that white one was going to do that to me, didn't you? Hi, Ruth. Hi, Carol. Right, so, as I said, hold the vellum in the air, and I do heat these from on top. Do not be tempted to go back and just give it that extra go over, just to make sure that you've got all that powder. Every time you do that, you're increasing the chances of your powder cracking off as you manipulate these. So literally, as you see that powder change, you need to move your heat gun along. You can see how quick this works. It really does heat and melt fast on the vellum. So that's the hardest bit. Everything else from here on in is easy peasy. So we're going to flip that over and grab our inks. And I'm using Faded Jeans Distress Oxide. Now remember, I said last time and the time before, we advise you not to use distress inks on this. I'm literally going in, scribbling on the back with the Distress Oxide. Whatever ink you use, some of it will come off, but onto your fingers as we're manipulating these, because obviously we're not giving them time to dry. If you wanted to leave it overnight, you'd lose less, but we want to keep this. Bear with me a second because something has just gone off that I need to flip back on again. I'm trying to trip myself up. Sorry, I'm back. So we have inked this all up. And then we're going to flip that back over. I'm going to take a pair of scissors. And we are just going to cut these roughly out. You obviously, as I said earlier, you don't need all of these. You just need a couple. I'm going to be cutting 4 big, but I don't need to cut 4 big. I only need to cut a couple so that you can see what we're doing with them. And 2 small is all I actually need for what I'm doing. So these ones, if you go back and watch any of our previous videos, you'll see that I suggested you cut further into the middle. I don't need a huge amount of movement on this card. I don't want it to be hugely big and bold. Just a little bit is nice for this card. It's a really clean, simple, fun card to make. So you're literally going to go around and cut these flowers out. I had meant to do a couple of these before, but as I say, why are Wednesdays always the most chaotic day of my week? I think it's because I haven't prepped. I'm in a rush to prep for this before Facebook Live, so everything gets in a muddle then, doesn't it, when you're in a rush? I'd like to say I was super organised and knew last week what I was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing until today. Which is very naughty of me. But time just flies by at the moment, doesn't it? So we were up in Hull last weekend for the lovely Terry Ross Papercraft show. It was really nice to see lots of faces there that we haven't seen for a while, because we haven't been able to make it to Hull for quite a while because it clashed with a lot of our other events, our workshops and things. So it was nice to be back. As I say, we're just literally, and see, look, some of it will come off on your fingers, but find me a crafter that does that, that has beautifully clean white hands all the time. We don't. We tend to get messy. So just going to go in and out all of the nooks and crannies. Now, previously, as I mentioned, that this was one of our older flowers, but a really, really nice flower because it's kind of got a bit of character to it. It's a bit of attitude, as they would say. So it did have originally, no, not originally, but it did have a outline die to cut this out. So if you have got the outline dies and you do cut it out, you will need to snip into it a little bit to be able to manipulate the petals. If you're cutting it out by hand, just what you're doing, going into that white or whatever colour you have in the middle here, will give you enough gap for you to be able to mould your flowers to the shape you want them, your petals to the shape you want them to be. Right, so I'm only going to cut out the two big ones because you'll get the idea. So you're going to take a kebab stick. Mine's one of the mini kebab sticks today. Don't ask me why. I couldn't find my big one, I think. You are going to then take your petal, pop your kebab stick underneath it, kind of off to the side, and you're just going to roll that petal around the kebab stick. It doesn't have to be super tight, but just roll it around there. And if this is when you find that your embossing powder is coming off, it usually means you've overheated it. It could be one of two things. You've overheated it, or your ink pad's maybe a little bit dry. So you should end up with something that looks like this. Give it a poke and a wiggle in the palm of your hand and just hold that there. And then release it and you get quite a little bit of dimension on there. And we're going to do that again. So let me come a bit closer to the camera. So you're going to pop your kebab stick behind your petal and you are just rolling it. And you don't have to be hugely delicate with this. Vellum's a lot tougher than you think. Poke and a wiggle. And the heat from your hand, I'm holding it, I'm not gripping it. Will make those petals stand up. That one, I missed a petal out completely. Try again. And now all my card blanks that we've just done have just fallen on the floor. We'll grab those in a moment. In fact, we'll grab those now so that the dog doesn't stand all over them. Oh, good grief, Amanda. Pull yourself together. Right, so we've now got 2 petals and we're going to put them together to give us... Oh, what happened there? Flipped it. Right, this particular flower, in fact a lot of our flowers, will argue with you to do this. You want to try and offset these petals. They look nicer if they're not stacked. This one will fight you. So I find that if I hold this one between my fingers, because it seems to spring itself back round onto itself if you're not careful, like that just nearly did. So just hold that between your 2 fingers, or finger and thumb, and that will make those stick. And then I'm just going to pop a little gem in the centre, preferably one that the backing comes off with it. So you will end up with 1, 2, 3 flowers. So I've got 2 of the smaller ones, or bigger ones, medium-sized ones, and 1 of the smaller ones. I did exactly the same thing with the leaves. Instead, except I put twisted citron on the back. But again, not particularly heavy. And I've cut them all out. Now to curl these, I've literally, like you would with a pair of scissors on ribbon for Christmas presents and things, you're just going to pull that and then take the end and just pull it back on itself. So you end up with kind of like a little S shape. That's purely because if I did it down like that completely, it doesn't sit very easily on the card. Also, when I've cut it out, I've left, oh, come back out of focus. There we go. I have left a little bit longer on the end of my stem so that you've got a bit more room to poke them in. It'll make sense when we put this card together. So you want 2 medium and 1 small. Pop those to one side out of my way. I won't cover that up yet. Right, so we're going to go back to our cardstock and we're now going to take the larger piece of the cardstock, take our inks. Don't load too much on there, you don't need too much, but you're just going to add a really light touch of ink around the edges, and it really is just a touch. And predominantly I'm doing this because it makes it easier for you to see what we're doing as we put this together on the camera. Quite often I would just leave this one completely white. I really like white, and in fact I'm going to show you in 2 seconds, because I was going to do this in pink, and then I thought I'd done pink 3 weeks running then, so we went blue. So I have a pinkish version. So what I did with the flowers, where you saw me scribble all on the back with the blue, here I did it with a white ink pad, because vellum has kind of a bit of a, there's not often you get a white vellum. So this one I used a white ink pad on the top and then just edged it around the edge with a pink. Can you see that? So that's another way of doing it, and I used for that one we used Versamagic Cloud White, which you can also get in the teardrop shape, and picked raspberry. So back to the one we put together. And again I used Twisted Citron for the petals. So I'm leaving the top layer white. Whoa, that was a bit quick. So you can now see those raised lines on there, and the top layer I've left white. I'm just going to take our card and stick the bigger piece down first, because you know what I'm like, I always say if you finish the piece, put it, and you can put it together as you're going, it will make it easier. You haven't got to lose so many pieces then. Good afternoon, Jean. Okay, so that's the base of the card put together. Now this one, remember how I said I was aiming to put my flowers in the top section up here? Have in your head an idea of where you want those flowers to go before you do this next stage. Now I can't remember if I cleaned my birthday stamp after I put pink on it, so we'll just give it a quick wipe over. Right, so this is a little trick that I've been doing for years and years and years. Seems to be the trend all of a sudden now. I am going to take my, now this is your own personal choice. I do not know what effect it has on my ink pads. As far as I can tell, it's never had any effect on my ink pads, but I will warn you that it has the chance to. So I've got my very old Versamark ink, and I'm going to ink my stamp up first with the Versamark, because that makes it sticky, which then in turn means that when I go to put my ink on it, the ink will hold stronger. Distress inks will always give you, will never give you a perfectly crisp image, but this helps you to have a slightly more crisp image. And it will be slightly darker than the natural colour of the oxide that you're using. So I'm just going to pop the sentiment on there. I'm glad you like it, David. Ooh, thought that was a fingerprint, but it wasn't. It was just a bit of something, a bit of fluff. So that's our stamped image. So you can see it will never be a perfectly crisp image with Distress ink, but I like to try and keep the colours all together, so that's why I tend to use them. So we're going to position our flowers on first. Well, hopefully they'll be better behaved than they were last week. I think we'll go there. 1, 2, 3. 1. Sorry, I'm not sure what your name is, but asking about layering the cards. Do you know, there isn't really a trick. I have to say that since I changed my glasses, I'm never quite as successful as I was because I hit that varifocals age. There isn't really a trick. There are lots of different bits and pieces out there that say they help you get your matting and layering straight. It might help if you tried it on a scoring board, if you tried to put it together on a scoring board, because you've got lines to follow. So that might help as well. I'll explain what I mean in a momento. So we'll just stick these flowers down and fingers crossed they're behaving themselves today. And then we're going to take all those petals, or those leaves that we've inked and cut out, and we're just going to pop a little bit of glue front and back of that stem and just pop them in underneath wherever you want them to be. It's going to test me today, I can see it along with everything else. Just pop those on here. And if they decide that, like that one just did, that they didn't want to. See, Teresa, well done. I'm glad it worked. That was just an idea that I thought we'll try it in a minute when we put this together. I think we're coming down here with this one. Go where I want you to, not where you want to go. Okay. No, I don't want it as long as that. I'm going to snip that extra bit off before we put this one in, because it's going to go in close on this little one here. And the same on this other side. You don't need a huge amount of glue. You'll be surprised at how quick these hold together. Now I know it seems a bit weird that I put those on first, but I just want to make sure that that all holds well together. And I want to pop sentiment inside the card before we layer this up. So I'm going to pop it to one side. And remember what I've always say, remember to carry your image through on your card. So you've got a couple of different choices. You could maybe cut one out and layer it on there. I'm not sure I would. Here, like so. Just bring it in there. But I think I am just literally going to grab my flowers and ink this up with the Versamark ink. And I'm stamping off the page. We've not got the whole flower on there. White embossing powder, light tap, take the excess off. Hi Sue, we'll forgive you. Hi Elizabeth. So, right, so we're going to heat this. I'm going to do it from the top just for speed today. Oh, do you know, I can't. I have to do it from underneath. You get a much smoother finish when you do it from underneath, except for when you're doing it with the vellum. Funny how you get so used to doing something that when you don't do it, it feels really weird. So I'm then going to take the brush that we've used, I'm not loading any extra ink on there, and just random over the top of it, just to bring in that colour through the card. And when I say randomly tiny amounts, oh, where are we? There we go. It is really, really little amount that I'm putting on there. It might go a little bit heavier, just so it looks like it's meant to be there. And then I might also just buff off on the white because it will resist. There. So it's a real little nod, just a little nod to what's going to be going on the front. And then obviously we've got to pop our sentiment inside. So we did happy birthday on the front. And it will do hope the day is fabulous. No, I'm going to do make a wish on the inside. So again, I'm going to pop that Versamark ink on the stamp first. We don't mind if you go back and watch us from the beginning. Don't try and stamp with your card on the scoring board to make that straight as well, because that really won't work. You could emboss that with crystal clear embossing powder if you wanted to as well. So that's our card base all put together. We've done our layered piece, so we'll pop some glue on the back of this. And then, oh, we want that scoring board, don't we? Let me grab my scoring board. Let's see if we can explain how I would use it. The one-handed bandit. So if you are using it in eighths of an inch like I am, you're going to line it up here, follow that line down and line it up down the bottom with the line you want it to be on. And then you can do the same with this. So I know this is eighth of an inch shorter. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. My mind's eye and bring that down. That really does help you hold it, bring it all together. You have to take a deep breath sometimes when it's not going to plan. So that is how simple that card is. Clean, simple, really easy peasy card to make. Obviously the only thing I didn't do live on here was cut out an extra set of flowers and the leaves. So maybe add another 10 minutes to it to do it. And that's all it would be, 10-15 minutes just to cut those out. But I think it makes a really pretty card. And I do like it when they open up like the 10th fold. Oakton Crafts, I don't know what your name is. I'm ever so sorry, so I'll just have to not give you a name. So hope you like that card. As I say, we also were going to do it in a pink, but decided that we've done enough pink, so that's what it would have been. Pink colours, pink and white. So I will just quickly run through what we have used. I'll clear up a bit of my mess to do so and see whether we can do it without it all falling everywhere. Right, so as you know, we have used the sticky glue. Ah, Sarah. And here's the bundle. I did it without dropping it all. So we used the Versamark ink. We've used white embossing powder. Hi Michelle. Twisted Citron and Faded Jeans on this one. We also used the large blending brush, but if you have the small ones, they also work. Anti-static bag should be used on this. The sentiments I used were our new sentiments, but don't forget we've got lots of different sentiments. So there's loads for you to look at and choose from. And then we used the Fleur stamp set. We also used the Honeydew Crafts vellum. You get 5 sheets in there. And then we've got the cardstock in 250 or 300 GSM, and you get 25 sheets in those. So that's everything we used, and that is the card we made. Yes, Sarah, we will be at Harrogate this coming weekend, so that's what I was just gonna spring up. Let me pop all of these back on. You get to see me now. Oh, hit the wrong button. So yes, we will be at Harrogate this weekend with the Stamporama show at the Yorkshire Showground on Sunday. And then we are back. Hi, Tina. Then we are, where are we? Following weekend, nobody's doing very much, are they? It's the coronation, so we will be probably sat watching that. The weekend after that, we are in Lincoln, I believe. And then after that, oh, new to carding, enjoying watching your demos. Thank you very much, Anne. Hopefully you'll get as hooked as we all are. So then we were in Lincoln at the showground there, again with Stamporama Craftorama. And then we have our workshop in Coventry. I can't believe we've got round to the workshop in Coventry. When I booked that, it seemed such a long time ago. But we're nearly there. It's madness. So you have joined us at the end, Teresa. I'm sorry. I keep seeing all these messages pop up, so I'm trying to read them and answer questions. So that's where we will be this month. Can you believe it? I mean, today's been really cold. Not -4 like it is in Canada. But we're supposed to be coming into our summer. This is supposed to be our spring, and I'm freezing. I don't know about anybody else. So yeah, that's where we are for May, and then we'll be into June for Flaming June. We are working on our release for Christmas, which will be launched beginning of June, and then we're on TV with it at the end of June. So hopefully you'll all be able to join us for that. If anybody's got any questions or anything they would specifically like us to do in these YouTube, Facebook Lives, let me know. You can either email me, Sue, make sure you come and see us. You can either email us at honeydewcrafts@gmail.com, or you can, Michelle, it's so cold, I might put my Christmas tree up. I know that feeling. Or you can contact us through our website, which is honeydewcrafts.co.uk or .com. Either will work. Or you can message us through Facebook. Don't forget that if you are on Facebook, you can go and apply to join our Honeydew Crafts Be Inspired page, where everybody gets to share all their makes and takes and projects and show us what you've been up to, and hopefully help each other. It's a really lovely friendly group. Everybody helps each other out if they've got any questions. Remember, no question is silly if you don't know the answer. What else do I need to tell you about? Yeah, all I was going to say is, if obviously we're making this as regular as we can, it would be lovely if you could like and share our posts as well, because then more and more people get to hear about us, and more of you will join in and have a bit of fun on a Wednesday afternoon. So I'm going to leave you all to it, and I will see you all again next Wednesday, which is, believe it or not, May the 3rd, for another Facebook Live at 2.